This tutorial is how to make a simple 3D form in Adobe Illustrator. So we have a cube, we have a sphere, we have a cylinder, and a cone. So we're going to go on with this. My first step is to make a brand new document, and we want to use our naming convention here. So this is 3D, and then I'm going to put my name, so Steve W, and then today's date, which is 9/28/2020. So now when I go to save this, it will have the correct file name convention on there. So any copies I make of this are going to automatically be named the way that they should. So let's get started with this. So what we're going to do is I'm going to make a square. I'm going to hold the shift and that'll make a perfect square. So just about that big. It's about 2 inches or so. It doesn't have to be specific. And what we want to do is we want to color this with some solid colors. So I'm going to go to my swatches. Alright, swatches are pre-made colors that we have in here. So I'm going to set this to red for the inside and for the stroke. Alright, so those are two turns. We have a fill and a stroke. So fill is what fills your object. The stroke is actually the lines, okay, or the paths. Alright, if I set my fill to none, that's that box with the line through it, all you will see is just the stroke. Okay, but we want to fill this with the red as well. Alright, so far so good. We made a box. Now what we're going to do is to go to Effect, 3D, Extrude, and Bevel. So right now, if I click Preview, which is down at the bottom here, let's do fewer options for now. If I hit Preview, you can see that now my box has some dimension. So an extrude is when you take a shape and you pull it out in 3D space. So I'm going to change my extrude depth to a little bit more, somewhere around that, somewhere around 200 points. That looks pretty good. Now these tools here will let you revolve your cube, tilt it. Okay, for right now let's not get into any of that. You know, there are things you can do here to, you know, organize how you're viewing it. We're just going to accept all the defaults for now and just say okay. So we have a cube. Alright, let's make a sphere. A sphere is a little different because if we make an ellipse and hold the shift key, we made a circle. Okay, so far so good. But if we just rotate it or just extrude it, it's not going to be a sphere. You know, if we just do that same thing, let's go back to the effect. If we do this, it makes a cylinder, which is okay if we wanted to make a cylinder. But what we want to do is we want to make a sphere. So I'm going to undo that. I'm going to change the color of this. The fill and stroke are going to be yellow. Now if I just revolve it, it will revolve on one end and it'll make a donut. Watch this. If I go to 3D Revolve, which is the second option, and I hit Preview, it makes basically a donut, or they call it a torus. That is also not what we want. So we're going to hit cancel on that. What we want to do is we want to cut this circle in half. So I'm going to choose my white arrow, the direct select tool, and I'm going to click and drag over that left point. Okay, these are called anchor points. So I'm dragging over that to select it. You can see that there's handles, and I'm going to hit delete once, and then I'm going to click any blank area. So now what we have, I'm going to go back to my regular selection tool. V is the shortcut. Now what I have here is a half of a circle. So now when it revolves, it'll make a sphere. So let's go ahead and do that. Effect, 3D, Revolve. I'm going to click Preview and say OK. So pretty nice. And then the last shape we want to do is a cylinder. So I want to make it look like a can. I'm going to go ahead and change my colors to green. My fill and stroke are green. This time I'm going to draw an ellipse that looks like this. Okay, so instead of it being a circle, well, you know what, I changed my mind. I am going to hold the Shift key and I am going to make a circle. And this time we are going to go to 3D, Extrude and Bevel. If I hit Preview, you can see that it looks like that little disc like we did it before. Now I'm going to say we want this to be front, and then I want to rotate it back. So I'm rotating it back. That's this dimension here. So if we say like 90 degrees, it does it all the way. So we want it maybe at 45. That looks really good. Might be a little too much. Then we want to take that extrude and we want to pull it. So here I did it to about 400 points. You don't have to copy how much. As long as you have it to where it looks like a cylinder, that's all that matters. So I'm going to say OK. And I don't want to get into any more detail than that. Now the second year students, you have one more object that you have to make. We'll choose pink for that one. First year students, if you do these three, you're all good. Because the second year students are going to do something using the pen tool, and we haven't really worked on the pen tool yet. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a point, an anchor point. I'm going to make another anchor point, and then I'm going to line up by holding the Shift key. I'm going to line up with that first anchor point I made. So it looks like I have this